Hello, this is Kathy with Duality Unfolding. Welcome to this video. So I have a reading for you that is going to go over what needs to be rebalanced in your life. So we're going to look at an area where you've been giving too much or doing too much, giving or doing too little, where you need more from yourself, like your own time, energy, how to regain balance, and then guidance for rest. So I have chosen a random card from each of the decks that I'll be using. So each of these cards is associated with the group that, it's associated with the deck that's used for this group. So group 1 will be the Starspinner Tarot, group 2 will be the Vox Arcana, group 3 is the Psychic Tarot, and group 4 is the After Tarot. I have a random crystal with each. So group 1 is this little quartz star. Group 2 is this moonstone moon. Group 3 is this rose quartz heart. And then group 4 is, I think this is a citrine point, maybe, or some kind of quartz. I'm not sure what it is. I apologize. This little yellow guy. So I will show you each of the cards to help you choose as well. So group number 1, your tarot card is the Lovers in reverse. Group number 2, your card is the Hierophant. Group number 3, your card is Transformation. And group number 4, your card is the Nine of Swords. So feel free to watch as many of the readings if you would like, as you would like. You can choose like a different kind of topic if you want, like for what part of your life needs to be rebalanced, whether it's like career, relationships, health, money, or you can just pick one and see what comes up from spirit around what they want to guide you around as far as rebalancing different parts of your life. So thank you so much for watching. Timestamps are below, so take all the time that you need to choose, and I will see you in the readings. Hello, group number 1. So if you chose the Starspinner Tarot, this little quartz star, and the Lovers card, this is your reading. So we are going to look at, just to go over it again, kind of getting a holistic view of what in your life needs to be rebalanced. We're going to look at where you are giving or doing too much, where you're giving or doing too little, where you need more for yourself, from yourself, how to regain balance, and then guidance for rest. So as you can see, there are quite a few cards. So let's go ahead and get into this. So this is what you were maybe giving or doing too much of in your life. And so this is the Two of Cups in reverse. The Lovers originally came out in reverse as well. And so this almost feels like, especially with both of them being in reverse, it almost feels like there might be a little bit of like codependency in some kind of connection. Lovers, a lot of people associate Lovers and the Two of Cups with intimate partnership. We can see from both of these cards that there is a very intimate connection between these two people. So this could be a romantic relationship. This could be like a best friendship. This could even be like a work bestie, like because when we're at work, we spend a lot of time at work, and so it's easy to connect in a very kind of deep way with the people that we work with. So because both of these came up in the reverse, it kind of is giving me the feeling of codependence, maybe a little bit of like, I don't want to say obsession, because I feel like that's such a like big kind of heavy word. It has a lot of negative connotations to it, but it's almost like the very early stages of the relationship, when you're like, it's like this infatuation, right? Where it's like you have this huge smile that comes across your face anytime they text you, like you just want to spend all your time with them, like you are making all these kind of small shifts in your life to figure out ways to accommodate like how to spend more time with them or talk to them more, get together more. And so it kind of feels like that, where you know, the Lover's upright is a card of, it's like a mirror card. It's a card of like balance, right? Balanced partnership, like being able to mirror back an experience like with someone else. You can see the body language here, like they both have a hand over their heart, they're both reaching out and holding each other's hands, like. And then with this angel in the background, there's this kind of divine connection element to it, but these two are mirroring each other. They even kind of look similar, right? Like they both have like long dark hair, dark eyes, and so the Lover's card can symbolize like the relationship we have with ourselves, like that mirror image, like seeing ourselves reflected back in a way, or being able to adequately or accurately see ourselves when we are like not in partnership. So with it coming out in reverse, it kind of, you know, it kind of feels like that you're very, it gives me like a big feeling of like needing that external validation, and I don't mean that in a judgmental way, because we're raised to like do a lot of kind of performative things for external validation, right? Like social norms and trends and things like that like dictate like behavior that's acceptable, like how we should dress, like what defines attractiveness versus like what defines like unattractiveness. Like those are all like social norms and preferences and standards that don't come from us and our inherent value. It comes from what someone outside of us says is pretty or is handsome or is attractive or is desirable. And so, you know, again, this card, there's very much this mirror image, you know, of these two, this holding, you know, there's like the hearts, even, you know, the Roman numerals, the Lovers is connected to Gemini, which like this is also the Gemini symbol. But again, because this came up in the reverse, it almost feels like there's like giving too much to a connection with someone to the point that you're kind of losing yourself. That like who you are has kind of melded into like who we are, right? That like instead of there being a you and me, there's just a we, you know. And I think that we're socialized in romantic relationships. That's what's supposed to happen, right? That like we are really taught, we have been taught for a really long time that, you know, we need another half to complete us, you know, that like these two, you know, people, like their hair coming together makes this little kind of heart shape. Like, you know, they're creating this heart shape. Like there's this need to be intertwined with someone. And I think that some of that comes from like a lot of like socialization. I think especially for women, that like the world is not safe and that you have to have a partner. Historically, like there's a lot of things that women could not do on their own. Like 70 years ago, a woman couldn't buy a house by herself. You know, she had to be married. She had to have, you know, a husband. There had to be a legal document saying that she is attached to someone that was seen legally as someone that could purchase property, because women by themselves could not, you know. So there's some programming stuff in there, you know, that like that it's not safe to be an individual. I think, you know, if you're a woman, but I think also like over time, as the world's kind of gotten a little crazier, like and as the world's got very much more expensive, there has become like this financial need for people to have partnership, like this kind of need for safety in a really crazy world, you know. And that sometimes like we can cling to others for that, because we've been taught that we cannot establish our own sense of safety. We cannot create safe environments for ourselves. And for some people, like that's true. And for other people, you know, like I feel like for all people, that is, we can all establish a sense of safety for ourselves, you know. the world, like, yes, there's a lot of dangerous parts about the world, but like when we lose that sense of, when we lose the belief that we can create safety for ourselves, what that really is a loss or a lack of self-trust, because none of us can control anything, right? And so to create a sense of safety for yourself is really directly connected to your sense of self-trust. If you can trust yourself to make good decisions for yourself, the decision-making mechanism is the only thing that keeps us safe, because we can't control anything, right? So like a perfect example of this is driving. You know, like you can be driving on the highway and you know where you're driving the same car that you've driven for a couple of years. Like, you know that your car is good, you take good care of it, you know you're a good driver, you haven't had any accidents. But when you get out on the road, there's so many people out there that you can't control anything that they do. You don't know them. You don't know if they're good drivers. Maybe the guy next to you is like texting and driving and you can see that, but you have someone in front of you, someone behind you, someone next to you. Like, you can't get away from this person. So all you can do is trust yourself to make good decisions if this guy starts to swerve, right? So let's say he's not paying attention, he swerves over in your lane. Like, you could decide, I'm going to honk my horn because I need to let this person know, like, hi, I'm right here. I'm right here. You know? And so when we have that sense of self-trust that like whatever happens, I know that I can do my best. I might not know what to do, but I know that I can do my best. And maybe in this moment, the best I can do is honk my horn because I can't get away from this guy. And so I say all that because this part of us that is codependent, this part of us that's really either hyper focused on like being in partnership, being with someone, not being alone, or the part of us that so easily gets lost in other people. I think that is coming from this space of a lack of self-trust. And I have definitely been there, and I totally get it, because we're not taught that we are trustworthy enough to make decisions for ourselves, right? Like the way we're raised, we have parents that make decisions for us, and then when we become adults, there's this power struggle of them allowing us to make decisions when like really we've always been able to make decisions. Even as small children, like we can decide to follow the rules or not. We can decide if breaking the rules is worth more than the pain of the consequence. And that this is really kind of how all humans live their lives. I think just a lot of times people that don't have that strong sense of like self-trust or belief that they can make good decisions for themselves, will defer to like authority figures, or they'll defer to other people to give them this false sense of safety, you know, because like when we look at these two, like they have created this little bubble for themselves, right? But the problem is that like this is a false sense of safety because they're avoiding everything else in the rest of the world, right? Like there could be a gigantic like shark coming to eat them, and they aren't looking because they're so consumed by each other, you know, and like maybe they have just gotten so kind of what's the word? It feels like intoxicated. Like it feels like this is like an intoxication, right? Where like maybe we are so enamored by this person that we're with, and we're so like needing, you know, to be with them and be in their space, that like maybe we forget to eat. We're not sleeping as much, you know, like some of our responsibilities are falling to the wayside. Maybe we're not hanging out with friends as much as we used to. So this, you know, just all that to say that like this is the area where you are giving or doing too much. And so this Oracle card, this Power of Surrender card, is surrender to setting limits. So you're being encouraged to set some boundaries around this. The message is, it is healthy to set boundaries in relationships. Practice expressing your needs, and remember that no is a complete sentence. So I think a lot of times like early in relationships, like the way this shows up is when you get to that point where like the dopamine isn't strong enough to like keep you from being exhausted over the lack of sleep that you have been giving yourself or not giving yourself, because you're spending so much time with this person, or you're staying up really late on the phone, or you're like going out and doing things with them when normally you'd be like in bed at like 9:30. So yeah, with this, like there's a connection, there's a very intimate connection that you were doing too much in or giving too much to. And so you're being asked to set some boundaries around that, to say no to some things. Yeah, I don't like, it makes me giggle because I mean, I feel like I've been there. Who hasn't been there? Like, if you've like been in an intimate relationship, like I feel like everybody's been there. Okay, so next we're gonna look at where you're giving or doing too little. And so this is again the lovers. This is so crazy. Okay, I forgot that this deck has two different. I think I don't know if it has two or three. I can't remember. Obviously, it has two. This is so weird. What are the chances? What are the odds that both? Okay, sorry. I'm going to stop freaking out about tarot. Like, I haven't been reading since 2018. Stuff like this happens. Okay, so the area that you've been giving too little is the lovers, but this is upright. And I love the difference of the imagery, right? Okay. So we talked about with these two coming up in reverse, this was kind of a codependence. But when we look at this one came in the upright. Both people are holding their hands out towards this heart. So I feel like this is a really healthy, balanced depiction of the Lovers card, because we have two individuals. They're connected. They're not grasping, holding onto each other. But this third element is the relationship. So it's you, it's me, and it's the relationship that we are making together, because we have these little strings, almost like, I guess it could be like rings around a planet, but in my mind, or at a quick glance, it looked like music, like a sheet of music, like music notes. And like we're making this music, we're passing this energy between us, and where the energy connects is this love relationship that we have. So to me, what this feels like is you're giving too much to this kind of more clingy part of the connection, and you're giving too little to pouring into the actual relationship. So this could almost be if this is a romantic relationship, there might be like a big focus on the physical, because we've got both of these cards. There's physical touch here. And then here, like they're not touching as much as they're focused on this love. Let's see what the Oracle card is. Okay, Pride. I love myself and I see myself in everyone. Interesting. This color is the same. Pink is associated with the heart chakra, kind of this yellow, solar plexus. Blue's the throat chakra. And then we've got this yellow here. Solar plexus is confidence. Again, yellow and blue. Very interesting. It almost feels like you're not voicing your needs. Like the thing that you're doing too little of is speaking up for what it is that you need. And this, like, I love myself and I see myself in everyone. I'm curious if like there's an imbalance in this relationship, in the way it is right now, that maybe like you are in an intimate connection with someone that's very comfortable with asking for what they need, but you are not. And so that might be a little bit of a lesson that you're in right now, that maybe maybe this person, let's say this person, I don't know, plays softball. They play softball every Thursday. And so, you know, like maybe on Tuesday, you're like, hey, do you want to hang out on Thursday? And they're like, oh no, I have softball. And they're like, but if you want to come to the game, you can. And really, like, you just want to be alone in your little love cave with them, you know, that like you just want to cuddle, or you just want, like, you want them all to yourself, right? You don't want to have to share them with a whole softball team of people that knew them before you, because you just want to be with them because you want to be the special only person in their world. And so, you know, there might be a struggle in communicating that, right? Because like you don't want them to not do the things that they enjoy, but it's also kind of like hard to share with someone that like, no, I just want to spend time with you when it's just us, because like that's kind of not realistic, right? That like unless this is just an intimate connection, which it might be, and if it is, if the only intent of this connection is for intimacy, then that's probably something that you need to verbalize. You know, because if you're just hooking up with someone and they're inviting you to a softball game to meet people they've played softball with for years, like there's an imbalance there. But like this might be you needing to communicate things with them, or it might be that you need to communicate things with yourself, you know. So like if you realize that like you only want to spend time with them like when the two of you are alone, like is that really the kind of relationship that you want? And I don't ask that in like a judgmental way. I feel like a lot of times we can get into relationships or we can meet people that we have this really amazing chemistry with, and we don't necessarily have intentions. We just kind of get carried away with the chemistry. And so it might be that like you really do want like deep partnership, but like you're in this stage where you're just really like infatuated with like this physical part of the relationship. And maybe that's like a reality that you need to see, that like, oh yeah, okay, like I'm really focused on the physical and I am not doing as much as I can to have a balanced partnership, which is what I really want. Yeah, but it feels like the thing that there's too much of is this kind of little like infatuation, love cave, fantasy bubble, you know, and that like kind of these more balanced, like realistic elements of the relationship, like working on the relationship, like creating the relationship like it is a third element where it's not just like we, but it's like you, me, and us, is the thing that you are giving a little bit too little attention to. So now let's look at where you need more kind of from yourself or for yourself. Okay, so we have this King of Cups in reverse. Okay, so the King of Cups is a master of their own emotions, but with this being in the reverse, it feels like there's kind of this an imbalance like with your emotions as far as like internally, that it almost feels like this tug of war, right? That like there's this part of you that is like really emotional, and it's not necessarily like you have rage, but like it's the emotions are really big, like a dragon, and that like sometimes you're not aware that it's kind of swirling inside of you. And so I feel like this King of Cups in reverse is almost like a message to get more in tune with your feelings. Like, how are you feeling about things? If you're someone that like kind of struggles with anxiety, or like it's easier for you to think about things than to feel things, you might be, I do it too. Like you might be analyzing your feelings instead of feeling your feelings. And that I feel like there's this like tricky thing about like vulnerability when it comes to like feeling your feelings versus just kind of analyzing them and like thinking about them. Because it's all internal work, you know, and like sometimes we can realize like, oh, I feel sad, or I feel nervous, or I feel anxious, and then the feeling part of it is I'm sad because I miss this person, or I'm anxious because I'm really scared that like there's big consequences to the mistake I made, or you know, I'm really scared that someone is going to yell at me for doing something wrong because that's what happened when I was little, you know. And I feel like this one is, I mean, not that you come here asking for advice, but I feel like I always want to help, you know, with some part of that. And I feel like, unfortunately, like I struggle with this too, with kind of intellectualizing my feelings instead of feeling them, because it's for me, it's a protective mechanism. For me, it's easier. And I don't know if that's the case for you. But with this dragon, like it feels like you don't give yourself credit for how strong you are. Because this dragon is really strong. It looks kind of old to me. Like it's got this very kind of ancient feeling to it, where it makes me feel like you've been through a lot emotionally, and that like that could be why you intellectualize your feelings instead of feeling them, because you know it's hard to experience hurt, and it's hard to experience disappointment, especially when it happens, you know. I don't want to say a lot, but it like if maybe it feels like it happens a lot, or when those feelings of like disappointment or hurt just feel so big when they do happen. So it feels like there's a lot of experience around difficult emotional things, and that like you don't realize how strong you are, and like you don't necessarily give yourself credit for how many of those difficult things you've made it to the other side of. So next we have this, soulmate card. Okay, I am one who trusts. The message is, allow me, divine beloved, to trust that the perfect person has already been selected. In the right place and time we shall meet, for you know every true desire of my heart. May I only wish for what you wish for me. Okay, so this card is making me feel like you really want for this person to be your soulmate, and these big emotions that are coming up, like the fear that they are not, or maybe it's the fear of abandonment, is really really big. And so if that resonates for you, if there's a fear that like you have become so attached to this person that like you're afraid to lose them, if I could offer anything, thinking about like when you remember the first abandonment that you experienced, and trying to kind of be with that version of yourself, like asking that version of yourself like what they need, and there's wisdom and healing in that, you know, that like it could have been like the first big breakup that you had, you know, maybe you were really young and you didn't understand what was happening, and like maybe like depending on the age of both of you, like maybe this was something to do with like their parents or your parents, you know, like especially when we're teenagers, like our parents have a lot of influence over those relationships that we can have. Also, like when we're that age, like we aren't the best decision makers, you know, because it's hard, like your brain's still developing, right? So it could be that, it could be something from your childhood, it could be something from like maybe you're in your 30s and you got divorced, and that's like this huge abandonment that you're still working through. So just, you know, trusting that like what is for you is not going to pass you by, like what is for you is not going to miss you, and that like you are safe in trusting God, source, spirit, like these like higher powers that you believe in, and that like if you can think back to like an abandonment or a disappointment that is really, it was a really hard thing to deal with, and you kind of avoid it, maybe out of fear that those feelings are going to come back up, but like remembering how strong you are and going to sit with, even if it's just in your mind or in meditation or journaling, that version of yourself that experienced that, and just kind of listening to them and like holding space for them, and even asking like if they need something, you know, because sometimes the things we experience in the right now can really trigger that wounded part of us, you know, that maybe, I don't know, maybe, you know, you went through a divorce and you really lost yourself in that marriage, and you're in this situation where to that previous part of yourself, that wounded part of yourself, it looks like you're losing yourself again, and there's this fear coming up that like what if they leave us and then we don't know who we are again. So just like an example that I hope is helpful. But yeah, just remembering that like the trust that you have in the higher realms, like the trust that you have in God's source spirit, the trust that you have in your higher self, your God self, your angels, whatever it is that you believe in, that you call on for faith, like that is so much more important than trying to cling and hang on to the people that you want to have around in this moment right now. You know, like we all come into each other's lives for different reasons. And so like all we have is the right now, you know? So it's like if you're struggling to enjoy the time that you have with them right now because you're so afraid to lose them, like you're not allowing yourself to have the experience of that connection in the right now. I hope that makes sense. The next card I have for you is just do your best. It will be enough. So this is from the Therapets deck. This is so cute. It's just like a really cute, sweet little whimsical message. So let me put this little guy over here. Okay, and then next we have 2 cards for how to regain balance. Okay, so we have this Wheel of Fortune. It's in reverse, but it's a wheel, so it doesn't, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't matter which way it is, the imagery is exactly the same. Wheel of Fortune is one of those cards, or Wheel of Fate, as it says here, that like it doesn't really reverse. Like just, it is. So how can you regain your balance? Wheel of Fortune is about understanding that like things always change, that there's like ups and downs, that like nothing is ever steady, and that, you know, this being the Wheel of Fate, I feel like you know, fate, fortune, kind of the same thing, that there is an element to life that like there are lots of elements to life that we can't control. And so with this, you know, this card is the number 10. In numerology, 1 + 0 is 1. 1 is a number of new beginnings. So to me, it feels like the way for you to regain balance around the situation is to understand that like you can create a new cycle anytime that you want to, right? That you can, because if this is old habits, old programming, that if this is how you've approached every single relationship where it's sort of this like codependent infatuation kind of energy, it is going to trigger the old stuff that you have, you know, like that this is coming into your life to help you to learn how to do some deeper healing or to learn how to make some changes. But with this Wheel of Fate card, like you have the power to change things whenever you want to. That like you don't just have to wait for, you know, you don't have to wait for like the perfect person to come in and expect that they are going to heal you. That like when you become aware of like boundaries that you need to set in relationships and you actually implement those boundaries to take care of yourself, what it allows is for a rebalancing to happen, right? Instead of like, it allows for the Wheel of Fate to turn in a way that's beneficial to like all parties involved, instead of it just being about like the other person. That you have the power to shift your relationship dynamics, your relationship beliefs, your relationship standards from this to this. Yeah. This card has eyes all over it. And so it really makes me think of like the third eye chakra. Very much about like going internal, right? Like thinking about like what is it that you need? What is it that you want? In comparison to like the action that you're taking. That, you know, sometimes we can just kind of subconsciously do things, you know, falling into old patterns, but it's like, do you want what you're creating? I hope that makes sense. That like, I guess to like make it kind of like to simplify it, it's like if you are really focused on like getting healthier, right? Let's say that like for you, getting healthy means like, I don't know, lowering your cholesterol. But you've always eaten a certain way that contributes to high cholesterol, and like you really want to lower your cholesterol. Like you just want to. You want to have a healthy heart, you want to have a healthy body, but you haven't changed your diet. Like you haven't changed the things that contribute to what got you into that situation in the first place. And so I feel like this kind of Wheel of Fortune, this Wheel of Fate card is saying like, hey, you hold the key to make the changes that you want in your life. You have the power to make the changes that you want in your life. And that like if you're lacking the wisdom, like you have all these eyes everywhere. Like they make me think of wisdom, like third eye, connection with like the divine, connection with like wisdom, knowledge, that you have the wisdom around you to change these things, and so it's like if you are fortunate enough to have health insurance, like you can make an appointment with your doctor to ask like, okay, what do I need to do to lower my cholesterol? You can Google it. You can see if there's other people in your family that have high cholesterol and ask them like, okay, what did they do? And it's the same here with relationships, right? That like if you have other people in your life that have healthy, balanced relationships, like you want to have, you can talk to them to find out like, okay, how do you not get lost in each other? And maybe they do. Maybe they're like, oh yeah, like the first year, like I was just kind of like lost in them. And after a while, like I realized it. And these are the things that I did to try to balance it out. Or we had lots of conversations, or, looking for like relationship advice, or like therapists that have written books on relationships, that you can find the wisdom and the knowledge that you need to make the changes that you want for yourself in your life. And so for you to regain balance, like the message that like is coming through is that you have the power to make that happen, but you're the only one that can make that happen, which makes it tricky. Like, it's not funny, but it makes me laugh because it makes me think of that saying, like, wherever you go, there you are, where it's like, well, shit. Like it's so simple, but also like, but I mean, I don't want to get away from myself, but also like I want to change. As like the changing part is hard. Like, how do I just like hopscotch from here to here? Like, is there like a 10-step program? Is there a pill that I can just take for this? Is there a time machine that'll take me there? Like, that's what's making me laugh. I'm not laughing about your situation because like me too. I think we all have something in our life where it's like, oh yeah, I have the power to do this, but also I can't because I don't want to. I'm like, that's the rub, right? That's the hard part about being human. But like this little cloud cat, little sunrise says, just do your best. It will be enough. So, sometimes like just taking that first step, and that first step could just be like Googling some information about healthy relationships. That first step could just be having a conversation about like, I really am enjoying my time with you, but I think I'm kind of getting lost in this. And like, I want to make some changes to kind of rebalance like the time that I use to take care of myself and the time that we spend together. Cause I feel like this person, like they feel it too. And like they don't know how to help you, but they also don't, like, it's so early on, they don't want to like come across like trying to fix you, but like they will wholeheartedly support like whatever you need. Like, if they're like, hey, do you want to go to a concert on like Wednesday night? And you're like, I do, but I have a big presentation on Thursday night and I can't go. And like, oh, I totally understand. Like, so let's, I'll go with my friends, but let's make plans to hang out like on Friday because I definitely want to see you. Or like, I don't know. Well, like they're very supportive of your boundaries. So I feel like that's really like positive and helpful, that like this person wants to have something healthy just as much as you do. But it feels like this is too early for them. They don't know. This stuff is yours and it's not theirs. And so because you haven't had a lot of these conversations, like they don't know how to support you, but they are not going to do the work for you, which I feel like is really, that's really good. Especially with this, you know, the soulmate card and then this card where it's like, this is very balanced energy. The two of us are intentionally coming together, but we're coming together to create something together. We're coming together to build a relationship together. You know, I'm not here to fix you or tell you what to do. Like it's like so much balance. Even this wheel of fate, you know, like we have two of the exact same angel. Yeah, and they're just kind of, they're just here, right? Like they're not holding on to each other. They're both really kind of focused and thinking about things. Yeah. Okay, and so the oracle card is, oh, friendship. So moon and Cancer. So the way that you can regain balance in your life is to spend some time with your friends, or even because we have these two that, you know, like they look like a traditional, you know, binary heteronormative couple, male and female. And so this could be bringing more friendship into that relationship, you know, like for all the time that you spend like really intimately entangled with each other, like really looking at building a friendship, building a partnership, as well as like spending time with your friends. So if you have been spending a lot more time with this other person when you would normally be spending time with your friends, like this is definitely a message to spend some time with your friends. And also with this connection, like to look at how to build a friendship with them, you know, because I think long-term partnership, long-term healthy relationships are based on a level of friendship. Because while this, you know, intimate stuff is really fun, if you guys are together for a very long time, like life is going to get in the way of that, right? That like there's going to be things that come up that like even if you have this amazing, beautiful future together, like, you know, maybe you want to have kids and there's going to be times that you're really tired and you're not able to be as intimate as you used to, or like if you're together a really long time and y'all get old, like, you know, you're not going to be hot, sexy couple like forever. Not to say that you won't be attracted to each other, but you know, like there's changes like coming up in our lives. And so, also intimacy doesn't fix everything, you know, that like there has to be a way to have respectful communication and connection and show that you care for each other. And so friendship is very much like a big part of that. So that's the message for how you can regain balance. And so lastly, we have guidance for rest. Okay, and so we've got the King of Swords. King of Swords is very, well, let me read this, sorry. I will wrap rest and care around myself like a warm blanket today. Oh, like this. So cute. Okay, King of Swords is very much the energy of like autonomy. That and so like autonomy and sovereignty, like to me those words go together like very, it's like two sides of the same coin, but they're also kind of really abstract terms that I think we don't use a lot. So autonomy and sovereignty are essentially, well, autonomy is saying that like it's the concept that like I am an individual person and like I have my own needs, I have my own desires, like I'm allowed to have those things, like that and also that my being different from you is not bad, you know, that like we don't want to date ourselves in every way, right? Like I wouldn't want to date somebody that reads tarot. Like that would probably get on my nerves. Which sounds terrible, but like you know, like I love having friends that are into tarot, but like to have a partner that like reads tarot or does nails or like whatever, like that would be like too weird. Like we need to have like some differences, right? But also, you know, there's times when in relationships where a lot of times people will expect their partner to like the things that they like, you know, like maybe you have a spouse that golfs and they really want you to come out and golf and you have, but you don't enjoy it and you're terrible at it. It's like, I tried, but like, this is not my thing. I don't enjoy it and it's hot and I don't like it and there's too much walking and like, you know what I mean? So autonomy is saying that like, I like golf and like, I don't need you to like golf. And that like, I don't apologize for liking golf. Like there's going to be times that like, I'm going to go golf and I'm not going to like be here because I'm golfing. It doesn't mean that I don't care about you. It doesn't mean that I don't love you. It means that I have my own, like I am my own person. I'm an autonomous person and I'm separate from you and different from you, and there's nothing wrong with that. Sovereignty is the concept that like we are entitled to be our own individual people, that like I'm allowed to be a different person than you. Autonomy is saying that I am, and sovereignty is saying that like it's okay for me to be that, you know. And so when we look at, you know, this kind of entanglement card, like this King of Swords, this sovereignty, this autonomy is very kind of polar opposite of that, but it very much aligns with this, you know, and even like the symbolism, right? That like these two are coming together here, and like this little crow, his head is inside of this, you know, like he's looking at this almost like, I want to create something that feels good, feels right, feels healthy for me. And this is saying I want to create that with you. And so like this King of Swords around rest, you know, is it's saying that like in case you maybe forgot, or in case somebody gave you the impression that it's not okay, and I don't think it's the person that you're with. I think that this kind of comes from the past, but you are allowed to rest. You're allowed to take time for yourself by yourself. And if there's this fear that the person's going to leave you because you're spending time alone, is that really related to them? Like, have they given you that impression? Or is it programming from the past that says that if we're not together every single minute of the day, if we're not intertwined and codependent on each other, that like, I can't control you from leaving me? Like, if you feel like you have to keep this person, if you have to do things to keep them engaged and entertained, like for them to stay, like that's really kind of toxic and unhealthy. And it doesn't feel like it doesn't match this, and it doesn't feel sustainable for you, right? Because if all your energy is going into keeping someone, there's no time for you to rest. And like, we all need rest, you know, we all need care. We all need rest. We all need nourishment. And those are things that we are obligated to provide for ourselves, which I think is why this card is by itself. This is the second King card that you got also. You know, you had this King of Cups that came out for like where you need to kind of give more to yourself, but it was in the reverse. King of Cups is very much like a card of self-care. I'm gonna put this back in the reverse so that we can kind of see that like there's this imbalance, right? And so it's like not caring enough for yourself is how to like rebalance that, is to give yourself more care, to give yourself more rest, you know? And so maybe you need to take a nap. You need to, you know, wrap rest and care around yourself like a warm blanket today. So whenever you're watching this, I feel like I would love to encourage you just to, you know, take a little time for yourself, to maybe snuggle up with a book or watch a movie that you enjoy, or like an episode of your favorite show. Whatever self-care looks like for you, going to bed early, taking a nap, you know, just enjoying your own company, doing something that you know that you need for yourself, to care for yourself because you love yourself. And if that old programming comes up around like, oh, I can't like if I spend any time away from them, they'll forget me or they'll leave me. If that's what comes up, you know, going back to thinking about the time, like the last time that there was a big hurt like that, and spending time with that version of yourself just to see what kind of wisdom comes up around that. So group number 1, this has been your reading for what needs to be rebalanced in your life. So I want to say thank you so much for letting me read your cards. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this was really helpful and, you know, insightful for you. I hope that it helps you in creating a better sense of balance for yourself, so that you know, you can be happy with your life. You can create really positive connections with other people, and definitely like experience some healing around like hurts from the past, because there's so much positivity around you. There's so many like really healthy, good connections around you. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye. Hello, group number 2. So if you chose this Hierophant card and the Stone Moon, this is your reading. So we will be looking at areas where you're giving too much or doing too much. We will be looking at where you've been giving or doing too little, where you need more from yourself, how to regain balance, and then guidance for rest. So you can see we have lots and lots of cards. So let's look at where you are giving or doing too much. Okay, so we have the 10 of Cups in reverse. And then we have surrender to trust. Okay, let me put this upright. So 10 of Cups is really like the happily ever after card. We've got this couple that, you know, they're just kind of enamored with each other, and there's kiddos and a rainbow, and like all the cups are there. Very much like a pinnacle card. In the reverse, there could be a relationship that is very demanding. You know, there could be some fear around like, is this it? Like, is this the one? Let's look at this oracle card. Surrender to trust. Trust yourself and your decisions. Don't be swayed by other people's strong opinions about what to do. Take action and be confident that you have chosen the right path. Okay. So, I'm looking at this Hierophant card, and we have, you know, this Hierophant, which is like this tree person, and then we have these two little bunnies down here that are kind of looking up, you know, at this tree for guidance, but they could even be talking to this tree person, but they're so kind of far below that like either he can't hear them or he's not listening, you know, or maybe they're just like waiting for wisdom from him, because that's the Hierophant is the wise one. But I feel like this is you, right? So you have this wisdom about things, but it almost feels like somebody is causing you to doubt yourself. I don't know what's going on with my card. I've had this deck for so long. It's starting to fall apart. Yeah, it almost feels like there might be some voices in your ear that are creating some kind of doubt. So if you're listening to other people about like your relationship or the things that like bring you a lot of joy, like the things that bring a lot of happiness in your life, if you have people that you've shared those things with and they're like, oh, I don't know, like they're kind of not necessarily naysayers, but like they don't have the same faith around it as you do. Because I feel like I'm not getting a super strong feeling that this is about, like, I'm not getting a super strong feeling that you're giving too much to a relationship. Like it feels like you're like worrying too much about a relationship or about like whatever this thing is that has been bringing you a lot of joy. And so I think sometimes, you know, when we feel really excited about stuff, we talk to people about it. But the hard part is that like we don't realize that we can't share our good news with everybody. You know, that like there are people that can get really triggered by our good news. There are people that, you know, can get jealous, but there's also people that like celebration makes them uncomfortable. They don't know how to celebrate. They don't like celebrations. So like they don't, that energy makes them uncomfortable. So they don't know how to give that to other people. It's kind of like the concept of like, I can't give you what I can't give myself. And so it feels like there's something that has brought you a lot of joy that you've shared with other people. And like they might be giving their opinion to you. Like it could be unsolicited or it could be in response to you sharing things, but it's created some kind of doubt in you. And so like I just want to remind you that like especially the moonstone and then this Hierophant card, like you're a very intuitive person, and that like I don't know how to say this in like a kind way. I'll just say it. A lot of the people that you have around you are not like you, you know, and so we look at like these two little bunnies are very different than this like kind of tree being wise elder. And so some of the people that you might be sharing things with, like they're not at the level that you're at. Like, and not to say that they're like less than you, but like these people might be, gosh, okay, so like a personal example is like my mom is a very very fearful person. Like she watches 24-hour news, so she's getting bad news all the time, and so she goes to worst case situation. Like that's just how her mind works, and that's her normal setting. So she's not like, hey, I know I'm making a big deal out of this, and I know that I think in worst case situation, but like I'm worried about you doing this because of this. Like she totally bypasses that, and what she'll say is like, oh, you can't do that, that's not safe. And it might be that I need to go to the grocery store after 8 in a very small town with very low crime. And so like I say that to say that like she and I are not on the same level about like the realities that we live in, you know, and like she lives in a really nice area that's very low crime also, but then she's also like 30 years older than me, right? Like I'm in my 40s, she's early 70s. So like I mean, I'm sure when I'm in my 70s, I'm not going to want to drive after dark. Like I mean, I feel like even now like my night vision is not great, but you know, so understanding, like I'd say all that to say that like these people are at a different, they're in a different headspace than you. Maybe that's a better way to say it, than like they're at a different level than you. And so I feel like that's where this surrender to trust card is coming in, that like, you know, not to say that you shouldn't share with people, but depending on what their responses are, tuning into your intuition, tuning into your own wisdom, and trusting that like you're making the best decisions for yourself. Like you're following your heart, you're doing the things that are in alignment for you. And what is oftentimes like when we are around people that don't know how to be in alignment, it's really triggering for them when we are. And that's not to say that you shouldn't do those things or you shouldn't share those things. Like you're on your own journey, just like they're on their own journey. And it's very possible that seeing someone else be in alignment triggers the part of them that they know is too scared to be in alignment because it looks so different than what they're doing. You know, because like to live in a really spiritual way, it doesn't always make sense, right? It's not like logical. It's hard to explain to people that like I don't know, that like my dad knows that I have a tarot channel, but like there was a time that like I wasn't reading cards for a while because I was just kind of like, I don't know what I'm doing and it doesn't matter, and like what if people think I'm a fake, and I got visited by, I don't even know what it was. Like maybe it was an angel or an apparition or like an energy. I don't know how to explain it, but it was pretty much kind of following me around my house. And it was very late at night. And so I was like, oh gosh, what is this thing? Like, because it was very dark, you know? And so if you're familiar with like paranormal, like, shadow people are not, they're like, they're frightening, right? A lot of people associate shadow people with like demons. And so there's this like dark figure in my room that doesn't have lights on, and it's very dark. And so my thing is like, I've had those experiences before, and I'm always like, if you're not of the light, you need to leave, you know? And like, if I feel fear in my body when there's like kind of darkness in the dark, I don't know how to explain it other than that. Like I'll say it out loud, I'll say it in my mind. And if the feeling doesn't go away, then it's like I'll start to pray and like talk to angels. But this wasn't that, right? So it was like, if you're not of the light, you need to leave. And it kind of was just there, but it stepped out. And in my mind, I could see that it had a cloak on. It wasn't a shadow person. It was like a male figure with like a cloak on, because I could see a face. And I was like, okay, do you need something? Because it was like, and this is in my mind, it's not me talking, because at the time I was brushing my teeth. Getting ready for bed. Like, welcome to the weird world of like spiritual stuff. And so in my mind, I'm like, did you need something? Like, can I help you? Do you need something? And so what it showed me in my brain was cards on this desk. And it was like, it didn't show me specific cards. It just showed cards being here. And I was like, okay, you know, because it's like, I understand like you need me to read cards. And it's like, I'm not inspired, and I'm really doubting myself, and I don't know. And so I felt it get closer. Like, it's almost like it disappeared. And then I could see it in my mind in the doorway of my bathroom as I was brushing my teeth. And it was just like kind of had its head down from behind the hood, and it's looking at me, you know, and the energy was like, you have to do this. Like, I'm not going to ask you twice. Like, it was very like, it was kind of this very like stern, like big brother energy. And I was like, fine, I will do it tomorrow. Not reading. It's like 11 o'clock at night. I'm not reading cards and brush my teeth and get ready for bed, but I will do it tomorrow. And then I started reading again. And, like, those are things that like, I would never tell my dad that, because I think my dad would like totally freak out. And also like, my family's not very spiritual. They don't believe in things like this, you know, so they would probably kind of make fun of me, but mostly be freaked out. And so I say all that to say that like when we when we live like a more spiritual life, it's not logical, and it's not practical by the terms of like the reality we live in. So the times that you're sharing things and people are, you know, kind of doubt you, or they make you feel like maybe you should doubt yourself, like, this is encouraging you like to not give them so much credit, and to trust in your own intuition, and to trust in your own wisdom, and really just to trust in your own beliefs, and like your guides, and God's source spirit, whatever higher power that you believe in, you know, and tuning into that. Okay, so let's move on to what you are giving too little to. Okay, so we've got the Two of Cups in reverse. This card, Two of Cups, is really about like relationship and partnership. This card's very much about balance as well. We've got this in the upright, we have someone that's pouring into someone else's cup. And in the reverse, we have someone that's pouring into someone else's cup, but it's almost like this. It almost feels like this rejecting. So in the upright, she's pouring into his cup and he's catching it here. But this almost feels like from his perspective, you know, which is how it came up, which is in the reverse. It's like, it's all splashing out. It's too much. So I wonder if you're having some, like, you're struggling to receive some kind of love. Interesting. Let's look at the Oracle card. So the message is humor. I choose to focus on the lighter side of life. With this card being in the reverse, and this is kind of dark here, you know, we have like the lightness, the lightness, the lightness here. It almost feels like you're taking, you're taking things too seriously, right? So it's like you're giving yourself, or you're giving the situation too little grace, too little space for things not to be serious. You know, like with this humor card, it almost feels like, you know, you have this situation that normally brings you a lot of joy, and you're sharing it with people, and there's some doubt that's coming up, and it's almost like that's the headspace that you're in, right? This kind of darkness here, and like unsure if you should receive. I wonder if it almost feels like the people that are kind of giving you advice around this 10 of Cups situation, like if it almost feels like they're kind of spoiling it in a way. You know, because this card is very like, it's very light, it's very positive, like the rainbows, the brightness, the joy, the clouds. And then in the upright, you know, we've got this sun here, and this person is pouring their love into someone else. But in the reverse, there's this darkness here, you know, and like holding, if someone was trying to give us something and we held the cup upside down, it's all going to fall out. So that's why it feels like there's this kind of struggle around receiving. And I wonder if someone has gotten in your ear around a relationship or something that's brought you a lot of joy, and now it's almost kind of spoiled it in a way where it's like they've made you doubt things. And so it's almost like now you're looking for like the negatives, like they've gotten you into this negative headspace and that you can't get out of it. And so it's almost like the thing you're doing too little is you're trusting yourself too little. Like excuse me, like the message says, I choose to focus on the lighter side of life. When we look at this card, which I feel like is really your energy, like it's kind of like weird and silly, right? It's a tree person and two little bunny people, and they all got together to like learn from this tree person that has a beard. Trees don't grow beards. Bunnies don't wear necklaces. They also don't have fingers. Like I feel like this is all kind of like nonsensical and like, you know, kind of just like the story I shared about like the being, I feel like it was an angel that came to visit me. Like it's kind of weird to say that, right? To be like, an angel told me to read tarot cards. Like that's why I'm on YouTube. Like what? But also like it's that same energy of like this whole situation is kind of nonsensical. Like you live in this kind of, your natural space is to be a little bit kind of silly and nonsensical and like flighty, in all the best ways, right? Like that you don't take things too seriously, but for some reason, like whatever this thing is that happened, it's really shifted you into this really kind of serious, for your energy, negative mind space, you know, like you're not in your own energy. It's almost like your energy's been tainted by whoever this person is that kind of created this doubt in your mind. And I hope it's not a relationship. But I mean, of course, in some context, it's going to be like, you're going to have a relationship with whoever you shared this with. But you're giving yourself too little of your own trust, right? That you're giving yourself too little of your own energy, of your own essence. Like you've allowed this person to kind of take over your headspace. So you're giving yourself too little of yourself, of your own wisdom, of your own knowledge. So this next group of cards is going to be where you need more from yourself or for yourself, depending on what comes up. Okay, so we've got the 9 of Pentacles. This card is the card of independence. And so, you know, we have this woman here by herself. She's got this hawk, this big kind of full moon in the background, which is really like a giant pentacle. This 9 on her, you know, chest. She's got this really beautiful like gown on that matches the stars in the sky. And the Nine of Pentacles is about independence. It's about being able to take stock of all the things that we've done to get ourselves to where we are, all the decisions we've made, all the experiences we've had, everything that we've learned to get us to this place that we are at. You know, the 9 comes right before the 10. And granted, these are different suits, but still, like, you have done the work to get yourself to this place. Like, you're the one that did all the work to get yourself to this happily ever after, whatever this happily ever after is for you. And to allow yourself to be affected so much by people outside of the time and energy and work that you put in. Like, what you need from yourself is to really remember who the hell you are, right? To remember that, you know, you're the powerful one, you're the intelligent one, you're the one that did all the work to get you to this. Like, you don't trip and fall into this, you know. Not to say that, like, everything is about struggle and hustle and grinding. Like, you know, this 10 of Cups energy is a reflection of the energy inside you. Like, it's law of attraction, right? That, like, if these two people didn't have all this love inside of them for themselves, they couldn't have attracted it from another person. Like, that's the level that they vibrate at. These two people vibrate at a level of very deep love for themselves, and that's how they were attracted to each other. So the thing that you need from yourself is to remember who you are, and that, like, you're the one that got you here. And whoever these people are that are talking to you, that are in your ear, in your mind, like, look at what they have and don't have. And I feel like they are not 9 of Pentacles people, and that they might just be trying to tear you down because they're jealous or upset or self-doubting, and they don't like that they haven't put the work in to be a 9 of Pentacles person. So why should you get to be that person? You know, and, like, we both know that you put in all the work to get here, and that their behavior towards you is just a reflection of them. It has nothing to do with you. So this oracle card is balance. My needs will be met. Change me, divine beloved, into one who can fully offer my schedule to you so my life can be in balance. Let me take rest whenever necessary, trusting that one way or another, all needs will be met. I feel like this is a reminder for you that this is how you normally operate before this kind of doubting stuff came in, this energy came in that made you doubt yourself. And so these two people are alone. And so it almost feels like, you know, versus this Hierophant with the two people, it almost feels like you might need to spend a little bit of time by yourself to detox from whatever stuff, this kind of negative doubting stuff that has been kind of brought into you. The thing that came up in my mind was cleanse. So if you have a practice for energetic cleansing, I know everybody has different ones. Like, some people will use selenite to cut the energy away from them. Some people like taking baths or long showers to, like, wash away the energy. Some people use, like, sage or Palo Santo. Whatever your practice is to cleanse your energy, that came through kind of loudly to do some kind of cleanse. So whatever feels right for you, as far as cleansing away energy that is not yours, that's gotten stuck to you or that you have happened to absorb. You know, when we do kind of an energetic cleanse or like an energetic cord cutting, like, what we're doing is we're returning the energy back to the person it belongs to, and we're asking for our energy to come back to us. And so the Therapets card that I have for you, you are doing enough. It's going to be okay. And I love that it's just a little baby cat that's sleeping. Look at these two. Look at these two. They're like, you could put this little guy here with her. But yeah, you're doing enough and it's going to be okay. That, like, it's almost like this is a bump in the road. This is maybe a little bit of a detour. It might be like a small lesson that you needed to, I don't want to say have. It feels like a reminder lesson. It feels like something you may or may not have experienced it before, but I feel like it's just this reminder that like you don't have to accept everybody's energy, and that like you are more than capable of making all the best decisions for yourself, because you got yourself here. You are wise. You're strong and independent. You're, you know, intelligent. You work hard. You have like a wisdom and intuition. You have this connection with higher source, you know. And so sometimes we just need little reminders around how we allow people to connect with our energy and how we don't, you know. And that really like you're doing all this on your own, and that's even more reason for you to be allowed to be very picky about the energy that you allow to kind of integrate with your own, to mingle with your own, to be around your own. Yeah. And so the next two cards are how to regain balance. I mean, we have one message here, you know, which is just resting, you know, and trusting that the universe is going to bring you whatever you need. Obviously, trusting that you're more than capable and that you're doing enough and it's all going to be okay. But then we've got the Nine of Wands. Okay, so we've got a couple nines here. Very interesting. I like that. So with the nines, like that's in numerology, it's the end of a cycle. The Nine of Wands is very much, a lot of people call it the Wounded Warrior card. Sometimes I resonate with that, sometimes I don't. Here, I don't. I feel like she's this healer, you know, that like she's been through a lot, and like she knows how to heal herself, because we've got this like fire here, but it's over the heart chakra, you know, and she's got this armor on, but she doesn't have like this huge helmet on, right? And like the armor's like, it's not significantly damaged, but it's like the fire is kind of heating it, right? So when we heat up metal, like it becomes more malleable, and it almost feels like she, like through this experience, you're learning when you need to protect yourself and when you don't, right? Because we have these two individual people. She's very much like not protected, right? She doesn't have any armor on. She doesn't have a weapon. She has this falcon, which, you know, could be like her eyes, you know, it could be kind of protection. It could be representation of like, kind of the spirit realm, you know, like watching over her. And then we have this other individual that is armored and like has fire, you know, so this is healing. This is kind of protection. This is a little bit of weaponry, and like knowing when that's necessary and when it's not. And so it feels like this is part of that regain balance message, that like we don't have to be open to everyone, and we don't have to be guarded to everyone, that like you have that intuition, you have that wisdom, knowledge, insight to know or to receive from God, spirit, source, like when you need to kind of distance yourself from people or protect yourself, and when people have proven to be like safe. And the other card is, this is Jupiter and Leo. This is publicity. Very interesting. So it almost feels like you... there, like this feels like the publicity messages, it feels kind of like fame. And so like this person is touching this star that's like glowing yellow, right? You know, like all these other stars, like they're yellow, but this one that they're touching, it's actually glowing. Terra being the earth, like this kind of angelic person above the earth. It feels like you... someone wants you to stay small, and you are destined to really shine in like whatever realm that is. Like, you know, I feel like for everybody that's going to be different. You know, like this could be like, maybe you want to be famous, like maybe you want to be a famous actor, singer, performer. This could also be that you're outshining people in your family lineage or your group. You know, that maybe like this could be as practical as being the only person that's ever moved away from your hometown. This could be as practical as being the first person in your family to get your master's degree. This could be as practical as like being the first person in your family to like own a home. It's something that makes you stand out very brightly from everybody else in this group. And I feel like that also triggers people a lot, because there's I want to say it's Australia, they have this concept called the tall poppy concept, where there's an expectation for everyone to be at the same level. And so genetically they do this with poppies, by cutting like the flower that blooms higher than the others. So like you cut the bloom off the flower, and like over time what happens is like you're essentially kind of killing off anything that grows differently or more or taller than anything else, and the ones that don't get cut are the ones that have all kind of met the same threshold. And so it, to me, like this feels like, especially because there's like a little bit of sadness in her eyes, and also like with this angel looking back at this card, I'm pointing at the star, like it feels like the angel is saying like, no, you have somewhere much higher to go, and you're realizing that like you weren't expected to be wounded by the people that you had hoped would support you in moving forward. And that's really hard. I mean, that's kind of shitty, right? That like, if we have fans, maybe, if we have friends, family, supporters that like have always seemed like they were really supportive of us, and then something happens and they kind of turn on us, like it can feel really hard, especially if that turning energy doesn't come from anything that like makes sense. You know, that like if we are cruel to people and they turn on us, it's like, oh, okay, well, I kind of saw that coming, right? But like if we just succeed for being who we are, and then people start to treat us like we're doing something wrong, like that's really hard, especially if it's something that you've shared with these people. But you know, the way for you to regain balance is to really kind of focus on like understanding like what you need to heal yourself, like what you learned from these interactions, because that's going to help you to know when to protect yourself versus when to just be open. It's also going to help you to see that like you haven't done anything wrong, because I feel like you know that, like, I feel like you've known for a long time, or you've always known that there was something big that you were being called to do, that you were supposed to do, and that you're just following that, you know, and that is something that you know more deeply than like almost anything. It's not something you can like explain in a tangible way, in a practical way to the people around you. And so lastly, we have guidance for rest, and that is the 8 of Wands. Okay, so we had the 9 of Wands and the 8 of Wands. Whoops. And then we have this I am enough now. There's a message on the back of this card. I didn't read it for the other group, but I didn't feel like I needed to. So I feel like this, I need to for you. So the deprogramming from the brainwashing of grind culture begins in the quiet and powerful truth of inherent self-worth. You are enough now. Can you slowly begin to believe this in the deepest parts of your heart and mind? Speak these words aloud over and over again. I am enough now. I can rest now. Okay, so we've got this rest card here. This 8 of Wands card, we can see that there's these wands that are all moving really quickly towards this light. The traditional 8 of Wands doesn't have a person in it. It just has all the wands kind of shooting in the sky. It's a card of very like quick movement. This card almost feels like this person is trying to direct all these wands at this light. I feel like you are the light. You know, we've got this light back here. We've got this heart light here. We have this angel pointing at the star. And so it almost feels like, again, taking that rest, taking that time by yourself, because it almost feels like there's someone that they're like trying to attack your light, and I don't know if they're doing it intentionally. I don't know if it's like subconscious. I don't know if they're just like super triggered and they don't have the awareness to realize what they're doing, but it feels like it's kind of hurtful. It's not nice. You know, it's really, it's not nice. And I feel like I'm struggling with this because I believe that we are all doing the best that we can with what we have at the time. So this person might be someone that was raised by someone else that very much had that kind of mentality of like, someone hurt me, so I'm entitled to hurt you, or I never had those opportunities, so why do you get them? It's very much like this kind of weird self-centered, like, entitlement to repeat negative patterns energy. This person does look older, you know, so it could be someone that's like in a position of authority, or it could just be somebody that's older than you, or someone with like an older way of thinking, like kind of an unevolved way of thinking. But yeah, if you were not sure, you are enough, you're doing enough, like you're allowed to rest. Like there's nothing that you need to do to prove yourself. You know, you're doing enough, you are enough, it's going to be okay. The balance card, surrender to trust. Like I said, I feel like this is kind of like a blip in the story. But there's a lesson here, you know, that like you're in the midst of learning. And that there's just a lot of really great reminders here, you know, that like you're strong enough, you're going to be doing amazing things. You've gotten yourself so far by yourself. Like you are wise, you are intuitive, like you deserve all the things that you want, and you are enough. You're more than enough. You're doing enough. So group number 2, this has been your reading. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that it was helpful and supportive, especially if you're kind of dealing with this kind of unconscious, like not aware energy is really what it feels like. So I feel like that can be really hard to deal with. So I'm sending you so much love. If you enjoyed the reading, I would love it if you would like and subscribe. But I just want to say thank you so much for letting me read your cards, and thank you for being here. So yeah, I will see you next time. Bye. Hello, group number 3. So if you chose this transformation card and this rose quartz heart, this is your reading. So I have cards for you for what you're doing too much or giving too much to, what you're doing or giving too little to, where you need to do or give more to yourself, how to regain balance, and then guidance for rest. So we will get into this. This card is in the traditional tarot. This is the death card. In this deck, the psychic tarot, it's transformation. And so we've got this kind of mask, like this kind of looks almost like concrete mask that she's taken off, and she's got these beautiful butterfly wings. So it's almost like coming out of the cocoon, you know, the transformation of a caterpillar to a butterfly. I was going to say something else. I was going to say like a worm to a butterfly, but that's, worms don't become butterflies. Oh man, this is going to be fun. Okay. So let's take a look at what you are giving or doing too much with for, we'll see what comes up. Okay. Conflict and defeat. So this is the 5 of Swords. So there's some drama. There's some drama around. Interesting. So let's see what the Oracle card is. Okay, surrender comparisons with other people. Keep your eyes trained on yourself. Focus on your own strengths, attractiveness, and power. Okay. With this Five of Swords, this can be a lot of times, like Five of Swords is dealing with people that are a bit unscrupulous. Maybe they don't have the same standards as us. They maybe a little bit shady. They're bending the rules to the point that you're surprised that the rules haven't broken. They're getting ahead and you're trying to do everything the right way, but it really feels like you're just getting beaten down, right? That like, okay, I'm doing everything the way I'm supposed to. And like, why is this not working for me? And so I think part of the issue is that you might be trying to do things the way that other people do them. And it doesn't align with your values, or it doesn't align with like your path or your calling. Like we've got this person walking, kind of stumbling down the stairs and into the dark. And then we have these images here of like these beings like running up to the top, right? And so it almost feels like the guidance that you're getting from your guides is to go higher, to go towards the light, but you're trying to do things the way that other people have done them and they've gotten success, but what it's doing is it's in direct conflict with your own values, and so it's causing you to go down into the dark and it's causing you some harm. Like we have this person kind of hunched over, like you're trying to follow somebody else's blueprint to get the success that's comparable to what they have. But the tricky thing is that like sometimes we can follow other people's lead and it doesn't work because we're not them. And I think that that's not the case here. I think that you're having some struggles with succeeding, but I think that the bigger problem is that you're realizing that like doing it the way other people have done it is really painful because it causes you to be out of alignment with who you are. So it's like you're having to sacrifice yourself to get the success that you see that they have, to get the relationships and the connections that you see that they have. And so what's happening is like when we are out of alignment with ourselves, it can make us sick. Like it almost feels like not sick, like maybe not getting some kind of medical illness, but it's like there's times that you've done things and like it's made you really anxious. Like I'm feeling like a sickness in my stomach, and it's kind of like when you are doing something new for the first time and you feel really, really nervous, but you can't tell if like you're nervous scared or you're like nervous excited, right? It's like, okay, am I freaking out because I'm doing something new and new things are scary, or am I freaking out because I'm not supposed to be doing this? Like it's that kind of feeling, and it feels like you just like try to push past it, or like you try to kind of ignore it, and like that's your inner wisdom. And so it's the cost is too high. Like the cost of you living out of alignment with who you are to achieve success by somebody else's standard is just the cost is getting to be too high, and it's not good for you. And like you know that, but it's almost like your ego is like, yeah, but like it's hard for everybody. Yeah, but this is just what you have to do. Yeah, but this is how you get ahead. And it's like, no. This might be how they get ahead, but you are not them. Like, and whoever the they is like a group, and it's like you're not like them. Like you don't resonate with them. You don't want to, but for some reason you believed or bought into their way being the right way. Interesting. So let's look at where you're giving too little. Okay, Three of Swords, heartache and loss. So you're paying too little attention. You're putting too little energy, focus on how painful this is for you. On how, this is really, because I'm feeling like you're having inner conflict and you're feeling really defeated with trying to get success the way other people have it, and it's causing a lot of like heartache for you. Like there's some like moral integrity things that are coming up that are really hard to deal. It's causing you to like question who you've become. This is really heavy. Like the way she has her head down, there's almost like a feeling of shame. I don't usually get shame associated with the Three of Swords. Like Three of Swords is usually a card of betrayal, disappointment, heartache, like it says. But like the thing that's coming up really big is like her head being down, and it feels like shame. It almost feels like shame that it got this far. So you're giving yourself too little. Those feelings of shame that are trying to stop you from what you're doing, you're giving them too little credence, too little attention. Okay. So this card is loneliness. I know that I am never alone. You might feel very alone though. I think sometimes we can try to do things the way other people do them so that we can fit in. But the hard thing is like when we fit in with other people, we no longer fit in with ourselves. And really like loneliness is like the spiritual meaning of loneliness. Like when we feel like a deep loneliness, it comes from a lack of connection to ourselves. And so we've been taught so much that the external world, the world that we compare ourselves to, is where we get like fulfillment and connection from. But ultimately, like, we need to have that connection with ourselves before we can have that like really deep, fulfilling connection with other people. So if you're feeling really lonely, like if you're having like that, it almost feels like it's like what it looks like in my mind is like a lighthouse with no light. So it's just like a lighthouse kind of on the shore. It's very dark, like the water's black, but the lighthouse doesn't have any light in it. And it almost feels like just being lost and alone. So it's like if you're feeling that way, like I feel like you are not alone. That like your angels, your guides, your ancestors, your spirit team, like they are there with you. And you also have people in your life that you can connect with, but that shame is coming up around like, I can't tell them what I've done. I can't. And you can when you feel ready. But the part of you, gosh, you're being invited to connect to the part of you that you were before all of this started. It's almost like who you were before all of this. Like that's the person that you need to connect to. That's the person that you're feeling shame about sharing this with. That like you don't care about how other people would judge you, but it's almost like you've disappointed yourself. There's a version of yourself that you have disappointed, and that's bringing up a lot of shame. Yeah, so you're giving too much energy to the expectations that other people have put on you around like what you should be doing for success or for whatever this is. And you put too little time, energy, and credence into like what values are actually important to you, or like how you are living in alignment with your own values. And that's really heavy. But, you know, like this transformation card being here, like the being in that, you know, the caterpillar when they're in the cocoon, when they're transforming into this butterfly, like it's very dark, right? Like there, however many weeks or months it takes for this little caterpillar to like biochemically evolve into like a whole new creature, it's all done within that cocoon, and it is very dark, and it is kind of a lonely time, and it feels like that's the midst of what you are in. You might be in the middle of a dark night of the soul also, like a big spiritual awakening, and that can be a really tricky time. So let's look at where you need more from yourself or for yourself. Okay, solitude. So this is the Hermit card, and I feel like these all look the same, right? But this is like the hair color is a little bit different, but we very much have like very similar, you know, this looks very much like, it's almost like the before and after, you know, like looking at this card, there's almost like a little bit of gray hair. This hair's a lot lighter. So the thing that you need more of from yourself is like that time alone, like that soul searching. She's got this book here that's being presented in the traditional tarot. Like the hermit has a lantern that they're carrying with them for light. The light can be seen as wisdom and knowledge, just like this book, you know. So it feels like the thing that you need more of from yourself is that time alone, and that time spent in like learning and growing in wisdom. There might be like some kind of like spiritual religious text that you really resonate with, that has been something, or you might be a religious person, but like a text or a book that is something that you kind of turn to in times that you need like support and advice, like you know, because we talked about this as kind of like, it feels like a moral issue. And so like a lot of us like put our beliefs and our morals into certain things of character, right? So like, I'm not a religious person, but one of my kind of moral compass things is like, do no harm but take no shit. And so it's like, I am intentional not to harm people, but also like, I do not accept when people try to harm me. You know, like I'm more than happy to receive like any kind of feedback, or if I've done something wrong, please let me know. But like, if you just don't like that I read tarot and you want to tell me that it's like evil or whatever, like I don't have time for your shit talking, you know, and I'm not going to be harmful to you about it, but you know, I will very quickly say like, no, thank you. Goodbye. No, thanks. And so like, we all kind of get our moral guidance, our belief systems, you know, those compasses from different things. But I feel like for you, it's a big part of that is like time alone, and then some kind of wisdom, you know, and it could even be like ancestral wisdom. But with this little light in the background, and also the light coming up behind this pillar, like the thing that you need more from yourself is to reestablish like this really strong foundation for yourself, and like a connection to like your higher source. Yeah, because it feels like shaky ground, right? And in this card, I don't think we can't really see the ground. It's like, these are just giant wings, you know, or maybe I don't know. I think they're wings, but it's like, it's hard to tell. So this oracle card says, prosperity. I am trusting. Change me, divine beloved, into one who knows you alone are the source of all prosperity. Let me live in gratitude, trusting every need is handled. That alone is true wealth. So again, we've got all these cards. There's solitary people, except for this loneliness card. And even these beings are above the earth, you know, so these are kind of like angels, could even be deities. Like if you resonate with like other light beings like Arcturians, like the Atlanteans, learning about some of those things might be beneficial for you. They might feel resonant or helpful. You know, and this is even kind of, this looks like a Buddhist Hindu kind of, I don't know if it's like Kuan Yin or what, but we've got all these beings or individuals, you know, so it's very much kind of repeating this message of like this time alone, getting alone with yourself and focusing on what it is that you need from yourself for yourself. Aw, and then we have this Therapets card. It says, the truth is you're far more capable than you feel. Yeah. Yeah. And I love how the colors go together of these two, but we're going to put this here. Like there's, you know, there's nothing that you've done that can't be corrected. So like that shame feeling that comes up, like, also, I want to say that like when you started this out, you did not know how this was going to turn out. Like I feel like when you started on this like Five of Swords journey, it was like, well, it worked for them, like I can try that. Like it was very much like this lighthearted kind of almost like an experiment or test, or it's a learning lesson, you know, to see like, well, I mean, like they're like successful, so why don't I do that? It feels like the same energy that we take into like, I don't know if you have ever worked with somebody that's like into fitness or like nutrition, and they're like, oh yeah, I'm doing this cleanse, and it's like, oh well, I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna try that, and then like our blood sugar tanks because we haven't eaten all day, we've just been drinking juice, and then we're really crabby, and so it's like, well, it worked for them, but it didn't work for me, and like now I know that like I'm a raging bitch after drinking juice for 2 days and not eating anything. So now I know like I can't do that. And maybe there's a part of you that's like, that could be ashamed, right? Like, I'm really sorry that I yelled at everybody on day 2 of my juice cleanse. Like I didn't know, and I'm never going to do it again, you know? And so like they're, you know, it doesn't feel like anybody's, you know, the energy of it isn't like, hey, I did this juice cleanse because I needed to be able to scream at people. No, it's like you didn't know, like you've never done this before. You didn't know it was going to turn out like this. And so, you know, the shame that you might be feeling around it, like, it's, you know, we feel what we feel, like, but also like you're being really hard on yourself. You're being harder on yourself than other people would be on you. And that like, just remember that you are far more capable than you feel in this kind of shame moment, right? That like you are more than capable of getting out of this, and like you will learn the lesson and move on and not do this again. But yeah, just like this gentle reminder that like you're learning and growing, and you're doing the best that you can, and that like you're way more capable than you feel. So now let's look at how to regain balance. Okay, so we have this truth card. I like this because we've got two, it's kind of hard to see, we have 2 scales here, right? And it kind of, it's hard to tell because it's sideways, right? Like if we looked at it this way, we can see, oh, okay, these are kind of like the scales of balance. But the other thing is like, we can't see what's in that other scale. We just see this person standing here in front of this like whole kind of gateway. And I think that like the beautiful part of this is that everybody has their own truth. Like there is no one truth. You know, it's like, there's my truth, there's your truth, there's kind of universal truth, there's a truth, but you're like, for you to regain balance, you have to figure out what your own truth is. And I think also to understand that like your truth is different than other people's truth, and that doesn't make it wrong or bad. This is just another part of like learning who you are, kind of like how we talked about like this kind of moral principles and like figuring out like what your guiding principles are, like learning what it is to like do things that are out of alignment with you, that you didn't even realize were out of alignment with you, and like processing this, and like how am I comparing myself to others, and like how am I disconnected from myself, big changes that are happening, needing that time alone. Because when we allow ourselves to get alone and start to go on this learning journey, that's when we learn what our truth is, you know. And just like I shared, like my kind of moral principle is do no harm, take no shit. Like some people don't agree with that, you know, and some people are like, well, this is the better way, or like you should believe in the golden rule, or you should do this, or you should do that. And it's like, that's, I mean, we can shoot each other all day long, but I'm going to believe what I believe, right? And based on like my lived experiences and my the things that I've been through, this is what guides me. But I came to that by being by myself, by spending time alone and learning things, you know. And that's the way that you're going to be able to regain balance, is to really look at what truth means to you, like what truth is to you. And I just love that there's the scales are here, right? Like, I mean, the scales are a balance, you know. And so like your truth will lead you to regaining a balance of yourself, you know. And then we have this Quarrel card, which is Mars in Cancer. So we've got these two different sides, right? We've got these two guys against each other, like maybe this is him, you know, with the red hair, and this is him with the dark hair, but they're pulling on this little circle chain. I don't know. Mars in Cancer is very much like a passive aggressive energy. And we can see that, right? Like there's this heavy staring. They're fighting over a ring, but like he's got a fist up, he's got a bat. Like their horses are even like eyeing each other. It's just kind of, it's kind of silly, but this feels like kind of the internal conflict that is happening, right? Where there's, you know, it might be like your higher self versus your ego. It might be like the old you versus like the you that's emerging. And so just kind of being aware that it's gonna be like a lot of, Mars is about taking action. Mars is the god of war, and then Cancer is the crab. Cancer is one of the most psychic signs in the zodiac. But when we look at crabs, like the way that they move, like crabs move sideways, you know, like they are not direct. And that's where this passive aggressive energy comes from. Like Aries, Mars is ruled by Aries, and Aries is the ram. And so like if you've ever seen a ram, like they will charge headfirst at another ram with the intent to headbutt, right? And so crabs don't do that. Like they kind of skitter sideways, and like have like one big claw that they kind of clamp onto things with, but like they're not fighters. Like they're gonna pinch something and hold on to it until it hurts enough that the thing tries to get away. And then like that Aries Mars energy is like very head-on collision. So it's like this weird conflicting energy. So it feels like there's within you, what that's going to look like is this kind of like wanting to take action and having your emotions sort of try to override that, and really like learning. This is essentially kind of balancing the head and the heart, you know. Mars doesn't necessarily rule the head, but it almost feels like your mind in a way is going to want to do things, and then your emotions are going to kind of pull back to like this painful stuff, you know. So you're going to have to do some like rebalancing within yourself to figure out, like, also the thing that came up. Cancer is very much like about the past. And so it might be that there's like things that you were taught in the past that like don't resonate with your truth now. So there might be kind of that like push and pull with that, where it's like, well, I was raised with this belief, but like that's kind of what led me to this situation where I feel a lot of shame. And like, I don't really agree with that anymore. And I think that I want to let go of that and move towards this because this feels more authentic or right for me. And then lastly, we have the guidance for rest. And so this is the shadow card, which is the moon card. And we've got these two figures. We have one in the dark, one in the light. Very much kind of this balancing energy that goes with this Cancer in Mars, like that push and pull kind of passive aggressive sort of energy very much matches. The shadow card has to do with our subconscious. It is like with the moon card, you can see like there's this dark moon, which is like a new moon, and we've got this brightness, which is a full moon. So Cancer is ruled by the moon. Cancer is known for being kind of moody because the moon changes signs every couple days. And so that means like the personality of the moon changes every couple days. But like the moon card can let us know that there's something in the shadows that we're not seeing. So in this time that you're spending time alone, that you're transforming, that you're determining what your truth is, you're going to illuminate more of yourself to yourself, but there's going to be kind of this back and forth, like this quarreling feeling, this internal quarreling. It's not a fight as much as it is kind of like a weird kind of awkward combative dance, because in my mind what I'm seeing is like two crabs fighting each other, but really it's like crabs aren't necessarily like territorial. Like they'll fight over food, right? So like they're fighting over something, they're not fighting each other like rams would do, but it's like this kind of internal fighting that's going to illuminate some shadow part of yourself. So like you're really just on this journey of like discovering who you are. And that's a big part of this transformation. So the guidance for resting is just to know that like this is going to happen in kind of cycles and phases, that like there's going to be times that you maybe kind of fall away from like this really deep learning. There's going to be times that like you're not going to have the time and space to just focus on this because life, like maybe you are working, you have a family, you're in school, any number of things, you go on vacation, like anything can come up. And so that's perfectly normal. Like this isn't read from ancient texts for like 24 hours a day. This isn't like stop your whole life to figure out what your truth is. Like it happens in cycles, and so don't like give yourself a break from this kind of passive aggressive stuff. Like I said earlier with the butterfly in the cocoon, like it takes time. It's not, like the caterpillar doesn't start making the cocoon and like somebody flies over and is like, hey, you got 6 weeks to be a butterfly. Like it doesn't work like that, right? Like transformation and healing isn't on anybody's time schedule. So the times that maybe you feel like you've been doing this for so long, or like, why don't I feel any different? Like it takes as long as it takes, you can't rush any healing, you can't rush any growth. So yeah, just understanding that like the guidance is to grow and rest in phases, to understand there's ebbs and flows to it. And so the oracle the oracle card is my body is my teacher. So the message on the back is, you don't need permission from anyone to rest and listen to your body. Let your body be your teacher. Your body knows the way. Your body holds messages of liberation that it can only deliver to you while you are in a rested state. One of the deepest lessons as you deprogram from the false teachings of grind culture will be learning to activate your inherent power as a human being. Your brainwashing regarding rest is immediately tied to your self-worth. You deserve rest. Yeah, so I feel like that kind of brainwashing and hustle culture that this talks about, like deprogramming, I feel like is very much connected to this comparison, right? Because we're very much taught to compare ourselves to others. Yeah. And our bodies hold, so much wisdom for us, especially for healing. Yeah, so much. So, group number 3, this has been your reading on what needs to be rebalanced. So, I hope that it was helpful. I hope that it was insightful, especially if you're kind of struggling with some really heavy stuff. I hope that, it's giving you some comfort to understand that, like, you're in the middle of a big transformation and that, like, it takes time, and it's, can be a little tricky to navigate sometimes, but that, like, you deserve rest. Like, your body will let you know when to rest. Like, you deserve time alone, and that you're more than capable of, like, completing this cycle. Like, this is a phase that you're in. It's not going to be forever. In the times that it gets really hard, just remembering you're more than capable, and that, like, everything is temporary. That, like, if today's a hard day, like, tomorrow might be a hard day too, or it might not. But, like, every day won't be a hard day for the rest of forever. Everything changes, the cycles, the ebbs and flows. So I just want to say thank you for letting me read your cards, and thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. And yeah, I hope this was helpful, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye. Hello, group number 4. So if you chose this 9 of Swords and this little yellow point crystal, this is your reading. So I have pulled cards for you from the After Tarot, and I've got a tarot card and an oracle card for every part of the reading. So we'll look at where you're giving or doing too much, where you're giving or doing too little, what you need to give more to yourself or for yourself, how to regain balance, and then guidance for rest. So let's look at where you are giving or doing too much first. Okay, so we've got the 6 of Cups, and we've got these 2 kids that are running towards this parent. And then the oracle message is surrender the habit of people pleasing. Speak your needs and be true to yourself. Focus on your own happiness instead of always trying to make everyone else happy. 6 of Cups is a card of nostalgia, reciprocity. It can be a card of balance, but it can also be a card of really focusing on the other person, and even with these 2 kids, like, they were, before this happened, they were here, and, like, one was giving a cup to the other, and now they're running to this other person. So it kind of feels like you're always doing for others, always focused on, like, other people, especially with this surrender the habit of people pleasing, that we can do this out of love. We can feel like we want to care for others, we want to focus on others, we want others to feel like they're important to us. But when it gets to the point that, like, we aren't focusing on ourselves and everything is external, then that's when things really get out of balance. With this 9 of Swords card here, this card is about, to me, I think of this as, like, the nightmare card, because, like, in the traditional tarot, this is the After Tarot, we have a person that is kind of sitting in bed and, like, really scared, and, like, we can't see what they're scared of. But in this card, we see that this kind of creature has come out and they're ready to kind of fight it off. They've got a sword in their hand that they can use to slay this little demon creature, whatever this is. And so it almost feels like you're at a point where you were really kind of, like, worried about something, or you were losing sleep over something, and you're finally seeing it for what it actually is, instead of just being worried about, like, is it this, or is it me, or is it this, or is what's going on, and not having any clarity around it. Like, there's a lot of clarity around what exactly the problem is and how capable you are at resolving or getting rid of the problem. And so you might have become really aware that you are a people pleaser, or that, like, you're kind of falling back into those old habits of people pleasing. I feel like I've never noticed this before, but this almost looks like a weird kind of ghosty face, like two eyes and like a mouth and like sort of like a nose here, which is kind of creepy, but also kind of like looming in the background. I feel like if you're someone that struggles with like people pleasing or perfectionism, there's always like this kind of negative self-talk that's in the background about like how you're not good enough or how what you're doing is not good enough. So I don't know if you're feeling that, if that's coming up, but like the card says, speak your needs and be true to yourself. So, you know, if there's any kind of negative self-talk going on about like what you should be doing or what other people expect to you, like, is that true? And like, does that align with like your happiness? Do you even know what makes you happy? I think sometimes like when we're so focused on pleasing other people or taking care of other people, we not only lose sight of ourselves, like we don't invest any time to get to know ourselves and like what we want because we're so outwardly focused. Also with this crystal being kind of a yellow color, and a lot of the predominant color in this card is yellow, it's associated with the solar plexus chakra that has to do with confidence. So this, it almost feels like whatever this thing is that you're going through, like it's the byproduct of it might even be the result of it, is that you're realizing like how strong and capable that you are, and you might never have seen yourself that way before. You might have been putting your value and your worth in like what other people tell you about yourself, and now you're in this position where it's like you have to slay this dragon or kind of defeat this thing on your own. And having this sword here and being able to see that you have the tools and the capacity to do it is really going to increase your self-esteem. So I really like that for you. Next we have what you are giving or doing too little of. Okay, and so this is 9 of Cups. And so this card is a card of excess and abundance. So you're doing too little limiting. So it's almost like it's like a double negative. Like there's a lot of things that are excessive right now. So you're doing too little limiting, too little boundaries. Like it's just, gosh, it feels like it's just really excessive. Whatever that is, you know, so like this 9 of Cups can symbolize like overindulgence, as far as like overeating, over drinking, like over partying even. But with this card, I'm trying to see if like he's not taking yet, but he's definitely thinking about it. Like if this is being offered and like he's not saying no. And so it almost feels like the thing you're doing too little of is saying no. The thing that you're doing too little of is exercising your boundaries. Okay. And then the Oracle card is Honesty. I can't always expect the truth from others, but I can expect it from myself. Yeah. So it feels like you know the boundaries that you need to implement, you know, because this sword is a very strong boundary, right? Like it's telling this little dragon thing, like, don't come any closer, like don't cross this boundary or it's going to be painful for you. Like, you know that you need to say no to more things. You know that you need to put yourself first. And people might ask you like, oh, are you sure that you can take this on? Are you sure you can handle this? Are you sure you don't mind? And you're like, oh no, yeah, I don't mind at all. But you do, and you know that you do. And it feels like that's kind of where a lot of the work is that needs to come out of this, is like finding the ability to be honest with yourself. Because I think until you can get honest with yourself and really acknowledge that, like, no, I don't want to do this stuff that I keep volunteering for. And like, why do I volunteer for this? Or like, why can't I say no? when in my life did I learn that it's not okay to say no? Or what does it give me to keep saying yes? What do I get from keeping saying yes to people? Like, what is the benefit of continuing to overgive and overdo for other people? Like, asking ourselves those questions can kind of give us insight into things, you know, because sometimes sometimes we don't know that we can say no. Sometimes we continue to say yes because we need approval. Sometimes we have learned that we're only valuable if people need our help. Sometimes we've learned that being needed looks a lot like being loved, even if it doesn't feel that way. So this is not like uncommon behavior. Like, this is not uncommon. Like, I feel like this is something that like a lot of people go through, a lot of people struggle with. So if you feel like it's just you or you've done something wrong, you haven't done anything wrong. This is very much like part of being a human being right now, I think. Especially like if any of this is associated with like your role as a parent or like your role as an employee. I feel like, as a parent, like kids, they rely on their parents for so much, and like kids don't know boundaries, they have to be taught. And like there's a lot of things depending on the age of your kids, like that they can't do for themselves. Or even if you're a caretaker for someone else in your family, if they're an adult and they're not capable of taking care of themselves, like it can be really hard to say no. And so sometimes like those boundaries are not necessarily like, no, I can't do that for you. Sometimes those boundaries are like, okay, what services are available, right? That if you're a parent and you just need some alone time, like, do you have another friend that's a parent and you guys can swap babysitting times? Like, is there like some kind of activity that you can get your kid into to give yourself like an hour of time when they're at basketball practice? Or, if you're a caregiver for someone else, like, is there some kind of social service where you can have in-home care, or even like a medical service that you can have someone come into the home and care for the person that you normally care for while you go to the grocery store, or while you go get a massage, or like go for a walk, or go to the gym. So sometimes like boundaries can feel hard because it's hard to say no. And boundaries can feel hard because sometimes like it doesn't feel like we can say no in those situations, because like if you're a caretaker, like those people are relying on you. They are not capable of something in some way. And other times, like if we're an employee, like it can feel like you can't say no because you could get fired. And like we live in a society where you can't do anything without money. But it definitely feels like there's a part of your mind that says that we can't say no because everything will fall apart. And I feel like that part of your brain is lying. I feel like there's always a way. It's just kind of figuring out what will work, but for some other things where it's like, if you're volunteering to do extra, and you're not being like compensated or appreciated, I feel like you definitely have to get honest with yourself about why you take on things that like you don't have to. Like, what's the value in it? There's a value in it, which is why it keeps happening. So next we'll look at where do you need more from yourself? Queen of Swords. Okay. So this queen, she's got this butterfly on top of her sword. Swords represent words, thoughts, communication, mindset. Butterflies represent transformation. So again, we have someone wielding a sword. The Queen of Swords is known for being very blunt in her communication, and feeling very strong and secure around what she communicates. Queen of Swords is not that person that's going to apologize for no reason. Like I feel like this happens a lot, and it bothers me that women are conditioned this way. It doesn't bother me that women do this, but it bothers me that we're socialized this way. Like there was a time when like I was flying a lot, and anytime I would come in the bathroom and like there was another woman there that was leaving, like they would always apologize. And in my mind, I'm like, why are you apologizing? Like, you're allowed to leave the bathroom. Like, you're allowed to occupy the same space as another human being. Like, it wasn't like we're not running into each other. We're not in each other's space. It wasn't like, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to bump into you. It was pretty much like, oh, sorry, I came out of the stall. Like, or, oh, sorry, I'm walking in the same space that you're walking in. And like that, it hurts my heart that like people that, I mean, especially like, women have become conditioned that like that's the appropriate way that we need to be in public spaces. Like, you're allowed to be in the women's bathroom. You're allowed to walk out of the stall. So if you're one of those people that apologizes when you walk into a space where there's another person, like, I just want you to know you're allowed to be there. You don't have to apologize for existing. So for whoever that's for. Also, thank you for letting me rant. But Queen of Swords, she doesn't do that. That's not her. She knows that she's allowed to be in the bathroom. She knows that she's allowed to come out of the stall. She knows that there's going to be people coming into the space that she's in, and that's not a problem, that we can both occupy the same gigantic bathroom in the airport and nobody has to apologize. But the thing that you need more from yourself is very much connected to this honesty card. The Queen of Swords, she is very direct, sometimes kind of blunt. I feel like with this butterfly here, she's learning how not to be so blunt. So it almost feels like you might be one of those people that when you get overwhelmed, you know, because I feel like this Nine of Swords is very much an overwhelming energy. I mean, if I woke up to that, I would be freaking out too, right? Like, this is cause for concern. Like, if you got to pull out a sword to battle a baby dragon demon when you are in the dead of night sleeping, yes, we need to be blunt, and we need to use some expletives and some curse words. But if you were someone that gets overwhelmed and then you kind of snap at people, this Queen of Swords is asking you to speak your needs and to be honest with yourself in the moments that those things come up, you know. And I feel like a perfect example of this, to go back another, I don't know why I'm on this bathroom tangent, but I did this a lot when I was like still working. I would someone would stop me in the hallway at work, and like I would be on the way to the bathroom, and they would ask me for help with something, and it would, of course, it's never like a quick question. It's like a very kind of long drawn out thing, and they're trying to explain it. And in my mind, I'm like, I just have to pee. I have to pee. I have to pee. Why aren't I saying that? Everybody has to go to the bathroom. It's not weird. Also, like, it's not going to take me 4 hours to pee. It'll take me like 2 minutes. Hey, I'm on my way to the bathroom. Can I swing back by your office when I'm done and we can finish this up? And of course, they're going to say yes. Like, nobody in the right mind is going to be like, actually, this issue is way more important than bodily functions that you don't have any control over. Nobody's going to say that. Nobody's going to say it. And so it took me a long time to get over my whatever, maybe embarrassment at telling somebody I have to use the bathroom. I don't know. Maybe a couple bladder infections. But to say, you know, like, hey, I'm on my way to the bathroom. Can I swing back by in like 3 minutes? You know, it's like, if it was for me, I would just kind of suffer through needing to like go to the bathroom and trying to like concentrate until they were done talking 10 minutes later. If I was like on the way to a meeting to meet someone else, I had no issues with saying like, well, I'm actually on my way to a meeting, so like, can I swing back by in an hour? But it was like, if it was just for me, it was like, oh, it's hard for me to express my need that I have a bodily function when I'm in a body. And also like not being honest with myself that like, I gotta go real bad. Like, there's probably 2 minutes before this is an emergency, and I can't just listen to you ramble on, especially when you don't even ask me if I have time and you snag me in the hallway. So I say all that because the Queen of Swords she's asking you to give yourself more, I don't even, like, time, focus, like, she just needs you to be honest about what your needs are and to say that to people as soon as you notice it, you know? And I understand that that is a practice, that it's very uncomfortable to express your needs when you've spent all this time not having them. But I feel like a really great thing that you can do is to practice this when you're by yourself. Because the way that we are with others is probably very similar to the way that we are by ourselves. You know, that like if we're so focused on other people, you know, and doing things that other people want, like when we have that time by ourselves, it can be kind of like difficult to figure out what we want for ourselves. So kind of talking to yourself the way that you would talk to someone else. So like if you were going to spend time with a friend, you would ask them like, hey, what do you want to do? Like, do you want to eat, you know, when we're doing this activity, or like, what time do you want to meet? Whatever. Like, you can ask yourself those same things in the time that you spend by yourself. Like, you can ask yourself like, okay, self, we're going to hang out today. Like, what do we want to do? You know, like, do we want to watch a movie, or like, do we want to get a pizza from our favorite place, or like, do we want to knock out this thing on our to-do list, or like, what is it that we would like to do? And like, kind of figuring out, giving yourself that time and space to think about like, okay, what do I need right now in this moment? And also just kind of noticing when you're by yourself, if there's things you need, right? If you're like, oh my gosh, like I'm super hungry and I haven't eaten all day and I need to eat, you know, like, let me go feed myself. Even really simple things like that, because like if you're able to identify what it is that you need and you're able to give yourself those needs, like that's one small step towards being able to tell other people what your needs are, right? Even if that's like, hi, I know that you just stopped me in the hallway really like for something really simple, but I really need to use the bathroom, so I'll see you in a couple minutes when I'm done. So what you need more from yourself is communicating, speaking those needs, so that you're not kind of exploding, you're not like venting when everything gets out of control. So the Oracle card is Divinity, and the message is, I know my true identity. May I always remember my true identity, unlimited light and love. Let me know myself as pure consciousness. Wake me from the sleepwalk of believing I am only human. Aww. I love that. And then your therapet's card is, feeling worried doesn't mean anything bad is going to happen. You're going to get through this fine. You always find a way. Look at this little adorable red panda. So cute. Yeah. So knowing who we are and knowing who we're trying to be, I feel like can be really powerful. I think that sometimes like we have a tendency to people please because we think that who we are is not okay, that there's something wrong with us. And like there's nothing wrong with you. Like, you don't have to be like everybody else. You don't have to be accepted by everybody else. You're not going to be everybody's cup of tea. Like, you're just not. I feel like that's part of the human experience, you know, that like not everybody is going to like us. Not everybody is going to love us. But like at the end of the day, the most important thing is that we like and love ourselves, you know. I feel like tattoos are a perfect example. Like there was a period of time where every time I got a new tattoo, like my mom would find a new way to express her disappointment. My mom's from Thailand, so you know, if you're a first generation American born Asian child, then you understand the level of kind of disdain around tattoos. And so I think that it in the beginning it hurt my feelings, and now it's like I just don't tell you. Like, there's no point, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just not going to share that with you because you're just going to get upset because you can't accept that, like, this is something that I enjoy for myself. And, like, I can't accept that, like, you continue to be disappointed with me doing things that I've been doing for, like, literally decades. So it's kind of like, it's just kind of funny. But if all my worth came from what my mom thought of me and, like, how my mom wanted me to look, like, then, like, I wouldn't know my own identity. Like, my true identity is someone that really values, like, freedom of expression, like hair, clothes, nails, tattoos, like, that's very, very important to me. And, like, she also has, like, a value for, like, expressing herself a certain way. It just is one that is more, like, conforming to, like, normal, kind of more social norms for, like, your age, you know? But, like, that's not, conformity is not part of my true identity. So if I didn't, in the times that I didn't really know who my true identity was, it was hard to hear that, you know, she didn't like my tattoos. But I have a tattoo for her, you know, and she doesn't even like that one. Also, she is a tattoo. I don't know. It's the whole, like, I'm saying all that to say that, you know, sometimes, like, when we are so intent on pleasing other people, like, we lose the ability to please ourselves, you know, and that, like, you are blessed with this life and, like, your own gifts and your abilities and, your uniqueness because there's only one you. Like, you're not supposed to be like everybody else. And that is your divinity. Your uniqueness is what makes you this amazing divine being. You know, that's for all of us. Like, our uniqueness is our divinity. So next we have how to regain balance. Queen of Wands. You have a lot of queen energy here. I like it. Queen of Wands is very secure in her ability to take action. So it's almost like a phased approach. It feels like where, you know, like, learning in understanding, like, that you're not speaking your needs, understanding you're not being honest with yourself, realizing that when you get overwhelmed, you can kind of explode verbally, that, you know, you need to learn how to communicate your needs. And then, especially, you know, as far as, like, the thought part of it and then the speaking part of it, but also in the taking action of it. That, you know, someone can ask us, like, oh, can you do this thing? And we can say, oh, you know, I'm so sorry, I'm not available. But when that old people pleasing stuff comes up, we might show up to volunteer anyway. And it's like, okay, is that a betrayal of self, or did you just have, like, extra time? And so it's having both these queens kind of facing each other. Like, there needs to be, like, for you to regain balance, like, you have to look at how you take action in things and how you don't take action. Like, the Queen of Wands is very powerful. She's, you know, like, if we look at this card, like, everything, she's in the desert, but she has a sunflower. Where does she get a sunflower from? In the traditional tarot, it's growing. Just like on her wand, like, there's these little leaflets that are budding. Like, it's not even planted. She's in the desert. What's happening? These are all signs of her power, her capability, like her ability to make things happen that don't make sense. And so, like, you are more than capable of shifting away from focusing on others and, like, giving yourself time and attention to take care of yourself. And then that, taking that action is how you are going to regain balance. Like, speaking up, you know, and saying, like, I can no longer volunteer to do this, or I'm no longer available for this, or even going back to change things to say, hey, I know I said that I could volunteer on Saturdays moving forward, but I had some things come up and I'm actually only available once a month on Saturday now. So can you update your schedule? And the action of that is taking the action to do that is where the power comes in. Because those things can be really, really, really hard, right? Because we can have in our thought process, we can have like all this catastrophizing and like worrying and like, what if somebody chews me out because like I volunteered for this and now I'm like going back on my word, and what if they tell me I'm a terrible person? And what if they don't? What if they're like, oh, I'm so glad that you're not volunteering every Saturday, because that's a lot. Like, you need some time off, right? What if they're like, wow, even one Saturday a month is way more than most people do. So the power in changing is the actions that we take towards that change. The oracle card is exaltation, which is the moon in Taurus. And so like when we look at this card, it's just really beautiful. You know, we've got these little cornucopias and like all these flowers and like this really beautiful moon symbol and stars. And so in choosing to take action to care for yourself, instead of putting all your time and energy into caring for others, like this is going to have a significant, really positive shift for you. Just in, like, it's going to change the trajectory of your life. Because it's going to change who you are. You know, like we talked about in the beginning, like understanding that we're capable of kind of tackling these dragons, these nightmares, these worries. When you take action to take care of yourself instead of putting other people first, like what you're doing is you're exalting yourself. You're putting yourself up on this pedestal that you should have been on the whole time. You're also, you know, you're shifting yourself vibrationally, but you're also showing other people that like, no, I care about myself more than I used to. And so because I care about myself more, I'm not accepting things that kind of lower me or degrade me, or I'm not tolerating people that treat me like I'm not a priority. I'm a priority to myself now. And so since you don't treat me like a priority, I don't have time for you. It's going to shift like your relationships with this too. You know, like Taurus rules money, beauty, value, worth, love. So this, you taking action to put yourself first and care for yourself over others, is going to shift your understanding of self-love. Because I think that you think that you love yourself, but I don't think that you know what self-love is yet. And I feel like that's a really harsh thing to say. So I apologize if it comes across really harsh, because I'm pretty much telling you don't know what you're talking about with like your love for yourself. And like, who am I? A pair of talking hands on the internet. But that's what's coming through. That like, if you think you love yourself now, just wait till you start taking action to change how much you care for yourself, because you ain't seen nothing yet. It's going to be amazing. And then finally, we have this guidance for rest card. So we have the Fool. Okay. Stop sacrificing yourself, please. Please stop sacrificing yourself. That's what came up really clearly. Like you're willing to just do what anyone asks without looking to see how much like time, energy, effort it's going to take. Just like the Fool walking off the cliff, you know, and like they're hanging on. Sure, he's hanging on, but like he's lost his knapsack. Like what? Look at this. Look at this dog's freaking out. I was trying to see if this part's falling, if the dog's going to fall over, because he's holding this rose like there's no problem. But like, you have to stop sacrificing yourself, because it's not your job to do things for people that they won't do for themselves. That's what I feel like is coming up really strong. Okay, and so the rest card is to rest in a capitalist world takes practice and meticulous care. You don't need anyone's permission to rest. You don't need anyone's permission to resist. You don't need anyone's permission to disrupt. Offer yourself grace as you craft and experiment with your rest practice. Take your time. There's no need to rush. Liberation is a lifetime process. Yes. 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 That people-pleasing part of you does not want to be disruptive. The higher God self part of you that wants you to learn what it really means to love yourself, she does not care about who's disrupted. She doesn't care, because if you continue to put other people's comfort over your self-care, then you're just going to stay stuck in this nightmare. You know, like you're going to be stuck in this nightmare of dealing with stuff that's not yours to deal with, sacrificing yourself to make other people happy. Like, why? You know, it doesn't make any sense. There's no point. Like, you're a little baby red panda. You are a divine being. Like, this is not what you were created for. You know, it's not what you're made for. Yeah. So group number 4, this has been your reading on what needs to be rebalanced in your life. So I hope that this reading was encouraging for you. I feel like it was probably uncomfortable, you know, because shifting out of people pleasing feels like conflict and confrontation, which is very uncomfortable for most people. But is it any more uncomfortable than like dealing with the nightmare of this? No. Is it any more uncomfortable than realizing that you're sacrificing yourself for other people that don't prioritize you? Not really. Yeah, you're not doing anything wrong by taking care of yourself. And I feel like that's all I'll say. I'm going to quit preaching, quit telling you what to do. So thank you so much for letting me read your cards. Thank you for watching this. If you enjoyed it, I would love if you would like and subscribe and comment. But yeah, most of all, I just want to say thank you for being here. And I appreciate it. And I hope this was helpful for you. I hope this was helpful for you. And that this feels supportive to you, because that was my intent. So yeah, thank you for watching. I will see you next time. Bye.